So, orientation is a practice to help bring a felt sense of safety back to our bodies. It's much more deep than just believing that we're safe, but actually, in our whole being, really sensing, feeling, knowing that safety, because that safety is going to be the platform that's going to actually shift our brain state, our nervous system state, settle down any fight, flight, fight, flight, or freeze survival systems that might be running, which are unfortunately running a lot of the time unnecessarily, and open up the higher functioning of our brain so that we can be present, attuned, and in this relaxed, embodied way, actually capable of responding appropriately to what's happening around us, whether that is not much at all and I can just chill and let go of whatever stress I'm holding, or whether that's, there are certain actions and things that would be helpful to do, but I can do them in a grounded way, in a way that's truly coming from emergent solutions that are coming from my curiosity and creativity and essentially sense of confidence in knowing that things are going to unfold well, moment to moment in this continuous way. So orientation is basically mapping ourselves in our environment through the senses, just like having a map is a tool that creates safety when we're going exploring new places we've never been before. So our body and mind wants to be and is trying to map itself in our environment in every moment, all the time, every moment of every day. And so when I align my attention and intention with my body's desire to do that, I create much more of an integrated way of being, and I find much more attunement to my own rhythms and needs throughout the day and to those of the people around me. So connecting to the environment through the senses is how we map. It's how we orient. I like to start with a little bit of, there's so many places we can start. It's very common to start just letting our eyes go where they want to go. But really, it's also recognizing that it's not as simple as it's a doing, but it's also not doing. So it's allowing and a letting happen. It's an allowing to unfold. I might have to apply a little bit of effort if my attention is very, very caught in internal experiences. Say, my thinking is really loud monkey mind, or my emotions are very intense, or I'm having images in my mind that are intense or that are pulling my attention, or sensations. These are all ways that our internal experience can pull on us and get really strong. Now, there's a place for all these things, and these things are all part of the rich tapestry of being, these rich inner experiences we have. But if they're not tempered with an awareness of the here and now environment, we're going to stay stuck in patterns that keep us looped in stories and thoughts and emotions and sensations and images that will keep us stuck in the same conditions that we've been living in. So to kind of break that, we're actually going to allow our attention to come outside. And so let's start with doing the practice now, allowing our eyes to go where they want to go. Sometimes if I've been using my eyes and straining them a lot, where my eyes want to go is actually to close and rest, which is also nice to notice. If that's the case, I might allow in my other senses to be a little stronger, taking a pause to see or notice what sounds I might hear bus or a really distant train. Some far sounds and then some close sounds like the fuzzy sound of the computer screen. And like if you're listening to this recording, my voice itself can be a sound, and you might even notice that underneath the content of what I'm saying, just literally the neutral data of the sound itself of my voice. You might notice a taste or a smell, especially if you're actually smelling, if you're outside in nature and you're smelling the plants, or if you're actually drinking or eating something. And then finally, the sense of feeling, right? So right now I can feel the coolness on my hands and forearms, and how that's different from the warmth and the soft sensation of the sweater that's on my upper arms. Also noticing a little more like pressure where the chair is touching my back, my butt, and my thighs. And the texture of this blanket that I have on my lap, which is a little different than my sweater. So noticing all these senses, these sensorial things. And so what I'm doing is letting it in really in a neutral way. So before I make any judgment about it or decisions about it, but just letting in the raw data, the colors, the shapes, the textures. And what this does is really creates a neutral space, right? Because life has this polarized way of moving us from activated states to deactivated states, from places of pleasure and pain, challenge and ease, waking and sleeping, having the attention go out, having the attention come in, these natural oscillations, but having this sense of neutral awareness of our environment through the senses, just the raw data, it creates this sort of resilient, like a foundation or a container in which those ups and downs can ride through. And it really actually expands our capacity to be with those things. And you might notice I just had a spontaneous breath there, which is a really good sign. The system is letting down naturally, spontaneously. If you get that neutral orientation down, you might try to take it a step further by doing what we call orienting to pleasure. So there's orienting, which is neutral, and then orienting to pleasure. So as I'm allowing my eyes to go where they want, which by the way, this often allowing the eyes to go where they want will often, you'll see how my head and neck is kind of just organically moving around a bit, which actually hijacks certain brain fibers that are otherwise used for dissociation and freeze, and actually uses that, like repatterns them into this way that is more what we call ventral vagal, meaning that we are using the higher brain centers. We're in a relaxed place where we can rest and digest and also be available for engagement, which is the best place to really be responding to the world from. And it's our equilibrium state. It's our default state when we're healthy. So as I'm doing this, I'm gonna, like right now my eyes are resting on this beautiful green ceramic bowl on the windowsill that has some stones in it. And I might let myself linger enough to where my natural curiosity is called to experience a little taste of enjoyment and pleasure. Where seeing this thing, or smelling this thing, or tasting this thing, or feeling the texture of this thing, or hearing this thing, whatever it might be, there's a noticing of an internal response that is pleasant. Maybe it's an opening. Maybe it's a slowing of the heart rate, or an excitement. Maybe it's a warmth. Maybe it is a spontaneous breath. And so, right now, if you will, with me, see if there's something in the space that draws your attention. Once you find that thing, really let it in and be curious about how your internal state is having a positive, pleasant response of some kind. And then once you're in touch with that, to just take that sip of that pleasure, and then return back to orienting again. We want to orient again because our systems are polarized, like I've shared, and they will flip back to the opposite experience of feeling something aversive or uncomfortable if we linger too long. So now we're lending a little more attention to the pleasant side of things because for various reasons our biology has an addiction to what's wrong or what's unpleasant. So we're kind of building the neural networks in a different direction slowly. We have to do it slowly because if we try to force it, or if we stay in pleasure too long, it'll just shift back. So if we can do a little bit of something, feeling something pleasant, and then back to neutral, because neutral is really that equilibrium container like I shared, then we're stabilizing our capacity to let a little bit more of that goodness be part of our everyday experience. Little bite-sized pieces. I'd love to hear how that experience, that exercise was for you all. If there's a place to comment under this video, please share. I'd love to hear. And practice this whenever you feel like it, as much as you can when it's easy, right? So when you naturally are curious to do it. I like to do it in the morning or before bed. I also like to do it throughout the day, especially if I'm focusing a lot on a project. I'll pause every so often to just kind of notice, give my attention a break and allow it to open and map my environment a little bit. And you can see why when we do this, when it's easy, it helps us to build the habit so that we can do it in more challenging situations, like say having a really hard conversation with someone where a heart rate might come up or something. We might start feeling stress even though our body obviously is not in physical danger. We can map our environment in that moment, and it can actually help calm our systems down to have a more ventral vagal oriented, neutral, and actually available, accessible, and caring response. So I will